most of you will know that I am a teacher by trade. That is my job. And I've been doing a bit of extra training on emotional well-being and children's mental health and stuff. So I thought I might do something a little bit practical for the parents out there. And also, you know, if you are a grandparent or you've got friends who've got kids who are going back to school and they're struggling with stuff, I thought I might just do some practical little tips and tools, not because I've got it all together and not because I've got all the answers, but we do have 3 girls, all of which have their own kind of worries about going back.
Yeah.
And Lucy in particular is really feeling it. She's feeling really quite anxious about going. And I'm a teacher and I'm going back into school, and I'm a grown-up and I'm feeling a bit anxious about going. So I thought I'd just do a few little pointers. And if that's something that is helpful to you, then I really, you know, we're praying for our kids and we know that God goes with them. But it's also just really important to know that we can do stuff to help as well, if they're struggling. So one of the things that I thought was really important is just to, if the children are struggling, if they're worried about stuff, just to remind them that anxiety comes from a healthy brain with a big imagination. And that is our Lucy, isn't it? All over. And her brain goes all over the place and she gets worried about things that probably we know aren't that real, but they're really big to her. And some of you will feel the same. So it's just being able to remind them and have conversations with them and be really open with them about talking about their feelings, because we want to protect their mental health and we want to give them tools growing up, don't we?
Yeah.
That they will have a really healthy way of dealing with all the feelings that we feel as humans. So if you're feeling anxious, it's quite hard to get those thoughts out of your mind. So let's have a few tricks up our sleeves of things that we can do. So here we go. You can play a game in your brain called Count It Out. I might even do this as a grown-up. But where you basically, if you're starting to feel worried, and you can encourage the children, if they're feeling worried, look for some things around the room that you can count, like plug sockets or pictures on the wall or people that are walking past, wherever you are, to be able to find something that you can count. And the counting takes your mind off the worries and it makes your brain busy so that there's less space for the worried thoughts and they've got a place to escape to. Another little trick is being kind. And I don't know about you, but being kind to other people and being generous to other people makes us feel good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And actually, if you can encourage your children to be thoughtful and to think about other children and their friends around them and how they might be feeling, it can actually be really empowering for them and give them loads of confidence and just make them feel really good, and again take their mind off the things that they're worried about as they try and help other people. For some of the older ones, I mean, you could do it with the younger ones as well, you just need to help them with it, but for some of the older ones, encouraging them to keep a diary, to have a notebook where you can write down the things that they're worried about, the things that they're feeling, even if it's just small things, being able to write them down and kind of keep a track of how they're feeling, but also being able to write down all the good things, so when they read back there's always some positive things there, and trying to be able to rationalise how they're feeling at that time. Another one for maybe the little ones, but again you can do it with the big ones, you just have to make it relevant to them, to use another character, or it could be a friend, it could be a cuddly toy, it could be a character in a book or something like that, where you kind of come up with a scenario about the friend and say to your child, what would you say to them? if they were struggling with feeling like they didn't want to go back to school because they want to be at home, what advice would you give to them? What kind of things would you encourage them to do to help them not feel so worried? And that again can be really confidence boosting for them, because they can feel that they've got it within themselves to find the answer to that stuff. And if we're clever, we can point that out to them. Another one which I thought was quite good is called squeezy nose breathing. I got that out of this book here. It's very good, this book. Squeezy nose breathing, where you just, if your child is actually getting really anxious and their feelings are completely overtaking them, you just need a moment to calm down. So squeezy nose breathing, you should try this, is you put your hand on one nostril, breathe in, swap your finger over, and breathe out through the other nostril. So
it's snotty.
Yeah, but squeezy nose breathing is quite cool because, you know, they can do that wherever they are, and it's quite funny for them, but it also really brings calm in the way that they do their breathing. So they're having to control their breathing, slow everything down and bring calm into the moment. And also just one other lovely little thing, which is about if they're struggling with separation, and I know Lucy is, she wants to stay at home. And she says she's going to miss us. And one of the things that I actually saw a friend do on their child, and I had the joy of teaching their child, she came to school with a little heart drawn on her hand. And when she left home, mum or dad had drawn a heart on their hand as well. And basically they said, if you squeeze your heart in the day on your hand, it's like I'm getting a cuddle because I can feel it in my heart as well on my hand. So that was really nice. But sometimes I just think that it's really important to explain this stuff to our kids and to acknowledge for them that all these feelings are normal, aren't they? We all have this kind of stuff going on, and they don't have to keep it to themselves. They don't have to just be brave all the time. They can share it with us. They can ask for help. And just also for some of the older children to be able to understand that we sometimes have things called thinking errors, where our brain tells us something and it tells us this is definitely going to happen, or I'm going to go to school and nobody's going to talk to me, or I'm starting a new school and I'm not going to be able to make any friends, they're not going to like me, that kind of stuff. They're not facts, they're just our opinions and what our brain is telling us. And our brain sometimes get a bit mixed up because there's a difference between opinions and facts. So sometimes I just think getting them to understand their worries is really important, to kind of go back and say, right, what is it that I'm thinking about? Is this a fact or is it just my opinion? Is it happening now? Am I having a thought mix up? Are my thoughts getting mixed up? What's the worst thing that could happen? If that happens, will I be okay? What's the best thing that could happen? And what will probably happen? Because we know as adults, don't we, that we can walk into a room and have all of these different thoughts. But for children who are starting a new school or transitioning into a new year group, having been away for so long, those thoughts of, is anyone going to talk to me? If you can get them to understand and ask those questions themselves, there's a really important thought process that we can teach them, which is like just a really good tool for life, to get them to be able to say to themselves, no, my thoughts are getting mixed up. That isn't definitely going to happen. It just might happen. And if it does happen, what's the worst that could happen? And if that does happen, am I going to be okay? Yes, I'm going to be okay. And what is the other side of that? That actually I could make some really good new friends. And it could be really good for me. So I hope that stuff's kind of helpful. I feel like I've just gone on a bit of a teachery waffle, but actually it's important that we look after our children's mental health and we look after each other in this stuff. And it's a big deal. Some of our children haven't been in school for 6 months. Some of our children haven't been back to their old school and are now starting a new school. And some of them are starting school for the very first time. So let's try and equip them.